It is so exciting to have so many familiar faces here today to join us. So thank you everyone for spending your lunch hour with us today. As Leah had said, I'm the president of Evolution Marketing, and here's our first slide. Today, we're going to dig right in. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. The first half hour of the program is going to be an educational webinar, and then the last 15 minutes we're going to save from 12 to 12:45 to go through any questions you have. So please put them in the chat. If we're talking about something and you have a question during this time, raise your hand and Leah will let me know. We're going to start off with, because we want to help you, we want to empower everyone in this journey. So we're going to start off with some key terms and definitions. It's so interesting that many of you have probably heard about a lot of these terms, but I don't know if I don't know if you've seen it in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to define some things so we're all on the same page to begin with. Greenwashing is a marketing term that refers to marketing strategies that falsely suggest a product or company is environmentally friendly. If everybody could please mute themselves, that would also be super helpful. So that's not a good thing. And if you'd like later in the Q&A, we can talk about the ramifications for a brand if you were to be caught greenwashing in the US or globally. Greenwashing then is the exact opposite. It's when a business or organization chooses to downplay or not talk about the cool sustainability attributes that their products offer or the services that they offer because they're worried about having negative repercussions in the either from an influencer or from a socio-political environment. So they don't tell the world about the cool stuff that they're doing from a sustainability standpoint. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and it refers to three key factors when messaging tied to sustainability from usually typically, I'm going to argue from a standpoint of investment and or from the financial sector. Today in 2024, ESG has gotten broader, but really my mind, ESG has came out of the financial side. So it's a financial way of measuring your environmental, social, and governance actions. And then the last word or phrase that I think is the most important, hey Heather, thanks for joining us, is stakeholders. You are going to hear me talk about stakeholders throughout today's presentation. To me, stakeholders are the most important thing to understand when thinking about impact storytelling. So stakeholders can be individuals, groups, or organizations that have an interest in the decisions and activities of a company. However, stakeholders can also be, and in the B Corp world, we talk about several different types of stakeholders. One of those can be the environment, the community that your business is operating in, as well as your employees, your customers, and your suppliers, as well as investors. So stakeholders really are all entities, human and non-human, that may have an impact or may have interest in the actions you're doing or be impacted by the way you are operating your business. So in this case, a lot of people are like, well, the environment's not a stakeholder. Yes, the environment is a stakeholder. Oh, I guess I can still let people in. That's good to know. Anyway, so in this case, stakeholders are how we're going to frame out our conversation today. So from the B Corp perspective, we talk about basically 5 different stakeholders. So your community, the environment, your workforce, and your suppliers. So actually that's 4, but that's kind of the bigger umbrella for who we talk about as stakeholders in the B Corp space. Today, we're going to talk about case studies, and you're going to say, well, why is impact storytelling necessary? Like, why do we need to do this, Lisa? I'm going to tell you, this is really disconcerting to me, having been working in this space since the late 90s. In 2023, research has shown that trust in nonprofits and governments globally has hit a historic low. Businesses today have a higher trust ratio. This is very disconcerting to me as somebody who's been working in this space for, let's just say, 25 years. Back in the day, both government and nonprofits had higher trust ratios. This data is coming from a global organization that's been managing and gathering this data for the last at least 30 years. So they have a standard process that they're gathering this data. So I trust it. But this also shows what's kind of going on in the world. People, individuals are not as trusting in what the government has to say or NGOs, and they instead are choosing to trust or have a higher trust ratio in business. So with that said, here are some other kind of key data points that I think also frame out why this is so important. So this is from the Sustainable Brands Sociocultural Trends Report that came out in 2023. Of the US consumers that they surveyed, 96% intended to behave in ways that protect the planet, its people, and its resources. The way they made those decisions then is 85% say, I'm loyal to brands that help me to achieve a better and more balanced life. And in this case, I'm arguing that that is by buying sustainable products or upcycled products or products that have a lower carbon footprint. And then 78% say I support companies that act sustainably by purchasing their products and services. All of these data points tie back into the statement that people have more trust in business, and then not only have trust in business, they also now expect business to be solving some of the world's largest social problems. Here are two other statistics from the Shelton Group, and this is from their 2023 Global EcoPulse. So 78% of people around the world believe that climate change is occurring and it's caused by human activity. And then 61% of people around the world say buying using eco-friendly products is an important part of their personal image. So again, this is further stating that not only do people believe that climate change is happening, they believe that business has a role to help address climate change. And then it translates to their individual brand and how they think about themselves, meaning that they also want to buy products that showcase they are supporting the planet and making good decisions. And this is why you see lots of folks wearing a Patagonia hoodie, right? Because that means something in the marketplace and that signals your friends that you support the environment. So I think this is all really interesting in 2024. Now here's a small case study from Wisconsin. So now this is a little bit dated. This data is from 2021 and it's from the Yale Climate Opinion Study. So this is just for the state of Wisconsin because this is where Evolution Marketing is located. And I think it's a great case study. Consumers are very concerned about climate change. This data is from 2021, and it talks about in 2021 that 69% of Wisconsinites agreed that global warming was happening. Now, in addition to that, and this is the part that just blows my mind, in 2021, 49% of the people interviewed believed the president was responsible for helping combat global warming. 55% believed our governor should be responsible for helping combat global warming. 63% said citizens, so that's all of us. And the last one at 69% is corporations. So this further shows that even in a purple state like Wisconsin, the people that live here expect businesses to be addressing climate change. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Now we're going to go through several key FAQs or frequently asked questions that I've gotten and Leah's gotten over the years at Evolution Marketing tied to impact storytelling. The first question is, okay, sorry. Oh, oops. Can you still see the PowerPoint? Or did it go away? Nope. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about the technical difficulty. Oh, I can't, never mind. I can't make Leah host. Oops. Lisa's learning about technology still. Leah, can you make me host again?
You should be good to go.
All right. Sorry about the technical difficulty, everyone. Technology, it's amazing, right? When it works well, it's awesome sauce. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see my screen again. All right. So the question we had is, what is an impact report? Okay. So an impact report is a way for a company to share in an honest and transparent manner the actions they're taking that are having some type of impact on the stakeholders. So typically when we talk about sustainability, we like to talk about sustainability reports, and sustainability reports are awesome, but sustainability reports talk about an action the organization is doing. So it could be, we are putting in low VOC lights in our building, and we are putting, low VOC paints, and we're putting in LED lights in our building. So that's great. And we're able to save energy. We're able to create a healthy environment by doing those two things. But it does not talk about the impacts of those decisions on the workers who live in the building, or should live, the workers who are in the building, who are working out of that building. And so that's what impact report does. Impact report takes it to the next step. It unpacks the benefits, both environmentally and socially, of the decisions that were made. Could be environmental decisions, it could be social decisions, but it unpacks those. It talks about the benefits to the stakeholders. Does this make sense to everyone? Jake's right. Okay, awesome. I see people nodding their heads. Thank you so much. So today we're going to be talking about different stakeholders, and here we're going to talk about workers, community, customers, environment, investors, and suppliers. Hi, whoever's joined us, you can mute yourself. That would be super awesome. Okay. Hang on for a minute as I try to mute our new visitor. Okay, I think she muted herself. Thank you so much. All right, the next FAQ question is, how are impact reports connected to an organization's sustainability and or ESG actions? So, as I just said, impact storytelling is typically tied to how a business chooses to disclose its sustainability or environmental, social, and governance actions. Now, when this is done effectively, these reports don't occur in a vacuum, but as part of a larger group of actions, projects, protocols, or programs adopted within an organization. And as I said, when we talk about stakeholders, as people evolve in their evolution of impact storytelling or in their journey of sustainability, there's a pyramid, and at the top of that pyramid is social action. So usually environmental action is at the bottom, and that's the compliance level. And as you work your way up to the top, as you evolve within your business's sustainability journey, you will start to have questions about how do we talk about and show those impacts. And that's kind of like the next step, the next iteration of a sustainability report. Hopefully this is making sense to everyone. Jacob, you're awesome. Thanks for raising your hand, for letting me know. Thank you, Heather, for smiling and letting me know too. How do we incorporate purpose into impact storytelling? This is really important because today, in 2024, we have many companies that are purpose driven or they're social enterprises. So what I'm going to say is that the public loves transparent stories that showcase how business and its people are taking action to address social problems. So the best way to incorporate purpose is to elevate the voices of your stakeholders. So that means if you are a nonprofit, which I know we have some folks from nonprofits who are watching today, you can take and you can use the voice. I mean, please get consent from the people whose voices you will be using, but please have your participants give you testimonials. It could be a video testimonial or written testimonial, and use that to help tell your story. Okay, that's the elevation of the voice of the stakeholders. The next question is, how do I know what type of impact report my organization should do? So there's actually no one perfect answer. Every organization is different. But what you should do is you should think about who your key stakeholders are, and your report should share timely and relevant information that's germane to your stakeholders. So again, going back, who are your stakeholders? What do they want to know? What they want to know is what you should share in your impact reports. Now, I can't see the chat, but Leah can. Could everybody please put in the chat what type of impact reporting your organization is currently doing? So the examples I have listed here, they're not exclusive. I'm sure there's more that are out there, but put yours in the chat so we kind of have a sense. And then Leah can tell me what we're seeing in the chat.
It sounds like so in the chat, we're getting a few none of the above. So it sounds like we have
Oh,
a couple folks here that are new to impact storytelling, which is really exciting. We hope you gather some insightful information from this webinar that you can then share with others in your company and organization to hopefully impact and hopefully in order to create some impact storytelling within your organization.
awesome. Okay, well, great. So then these are just examples. And again, like I said, it's not exclusive, but a sustainability report, an ESG report, a CSR, which stands for corporate social responsibility. Those have been around for a good long time. A giving report, which just highlights your donations of time as well as your fiscal donations. Some type of an environmental operations impact report, a carbon footprint, or my catch-all is a social impact report, which covers everything your organization is doing. We are going to now answer one more question, and I'm going to start giving you some examples. So one other question that comes up is, what can my report look like? And again, there's no perfect answer. It's going to depend upon your stakeholders. So you need to know who your stakeholders are and how they then like to get information. So do they like to get information via social media? Are they Instagram followers and they want to see a short video on Instagram about one type of impact that your business is having? Are they your board of directors and they would prefer to have a beautiful 50-page printed report in their hand that they could file in their office to show to their colleagues and or to other investors? These are the different ways that you could set up your impact report. But again, it's going to really depend upon who your audience is and how they like to get information. Now, if you determine that your audience covers all these different topics, at that point, you might want to create a micro website that showcases all the different pieces of your impact report on that one website to make it easier for folks to follow. The other thing I want to remind everybody is that in 2024, the public likes short snippets of information and lovely graphics, and then a link. So if they can learn more, they can, and they can get more detailed reporting. But really, it's those short blurbs that tie back into a great graphic of what the public is looking for today. Okay, so now we're going to go into some impact report examples. All right, so I don't know how many of you have heard of Brilliant Earth. It's a global company, and I'm showcasing their example today. Oh, and by the way, all of these, everything in the slides are linked. And so post the webinar today, we're going to send a recording, and we are going to send the PowerPoint slides from today so that you all can check out these reports. So the Brilliant Earth does a fantastic job of talking about their ESG goals and performance. Now, their full report has all of these different categories. So transparency, sustainability, compassion, inclusion, governance, etc. This is just a picture from one of their ESG goals pages. In this, you can see the goal year, what the goal is, the status for that year, their progress, and then what they want to be doing in 2023. And I think this is really important because each of these are very specific tasks or very specific things that are being done, actions that are being done that tie back into their bigger ESG report. Artisan Dental. This is what I'm going to call as a corporate social responsibility report. Artisan Dental is one of the Evolution Marketing clients, and they're a certified B Corp in the state of Wisconsin. What Artisan Dental does for their impact reporting is they talk about creating multidimensional value for all stakeholders. So their entire report is literally built around sharing their story with their stakeholders, which is awesome, right? I mean, we talk about stakeholders today, they know who their audience is. Their impact report is based on the 5 areas of the B Impact Assessment as a certified B Corp. And so governance is one of those areas. This is actually their score in the governance category from 2022. And then each year, we're currently working on the 5th year of their impact report. So we've been working with them for a while on this. They put a couple highlighted projects or activities or actions that happened in that year that tie into governance. What I love about Artisan Dental is they also really prioritize the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And they pair in to each of their impact reports the different SDGs that correspond to the actions taken. So we have governance here and consumers here. Through the link, you'll be able to see this report, and on the Evolution Marketing website, we actually have the last 4 years of reports. So now I'm going to show you some examples from Evolution Marketing, because again, we've been doing these things for a really long time, and that's why we're able to talk about this today, because we're leading by example. So in 2021 and 2022, this is Evolution Marketing Operational Impact Report. Jake's going to smile because right here I am talking about targets. So for those of you who are not familiar, there are 17 sustainable development goals, and within those 17 sustainable development goals, there are 169 targets. At Evolution Marketing, I believe it's really important to be transparent in the actions we're taking. So we map out on a yearly basis the targets that we are meeting by the actions covered in our impact report. That's pretty amazing, right? I think everyone should do this. So that's what you see here are those different sub-targets. And then in the pages that follow this in our impact report, you will see the different actions we have taken to meet those targets. And we update this every year when we do a new report. Here's our carbon footprint report from 2021. We're a super small business. And again, this was during COVID. So our carbon footprint for that year was 3.72 metric tons. That's a super baby impact, right? It has went up since then, but I'm proud to say it was very little that year because there was not a lot of traveling that occurred. But showing the clear and transparent manner, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. One of the things that has evolved with our impact reporting over time is a better further details under our scope 3. Again, we're a small business. So it has miles driven by our electric car, miles driven by our gas car, and then miles driven by our interns, which is actually higher than anything else coming to the Evolution Marketing office. And then our supply chain. And what's super interesting, if you look at this, our supply chain for printing, purchase, and office supplies, that was 2.1 metric tons. So the majority of our carbon footprint was literally within our supply chain and the things we purchased to operate and run the business. Again, back to the short snippets of information, we also have, this is high level, then we have links here where you can learn where we got this information from, how we put it together, so we have more detailed information as well available. Okay, this is what I think is I love this. So this is our giving report from 2018 to 2020. By the way, we're actually in the process of updating our 2021 to 2023 giving report. So that will be coming out later this year from Evolution Marketing. But since we're part of 1% for the planet, we donate at least 1% of our total earnings yearly to nonprofit environmental organizations. But we also believe that social enterprises are also important. So we also donate to social entities as well that are maybe not considered environmental. So in 2018, we donated 2.9% of all of our overall income was donated to nonprofits, with 2.7% donated to environmental nonprofits. Now, what's really nice about this is you can see 2018, you can see 2019, you see 2020. You can see the percentages donated and the organizations that we donated to. So we're creating a track record here so you can look year over year to see who we're giving to, which I think is also super important from a transparency standpoint. Here's another piece of the social impact reporting from the 2018 to 2020 report. We do several projects on a yearly basis with key stakeholders. And one of those key stakeholders for us happens to be the Oconomowoc Area School District. So back in I guess it was 2018, maybe it was 2017. I started working with it. I've been working with it for a long time. Let's just say that. But we did our first project in 2019. And this school board, this chalkboard here, actually highlights the project that we worked with the school district. We helped them with a global sustainability class. So we work with the students. And if you look right here, this quote, this is from the teachers. So I'm elevating the teachers, talking about evolution marketing and the impact we had, which again goes back to this whole storytelling. It's not Lisa saying we did these things, it's the teachers saying we did these things, and then it's highlighting those different partnerships. Now, what's really cool about this is that I work with the students and they actually created their first ever impact report in 2019 to 2020 year. And these quotes are actually taken from the students' impact report, which I think is also pretty spectacular because the students put into action what they learned through working with evolution marketing. And I want to draw your attention to this Giselle quote because she was a student who was trying to figure out where she wanted to go to college, and she was very interested in business as a force for good. So she had asked me if I could refer her to businesses in Florida. I referred her to Florida for Good, which is the partner of Be Local Wisconsin. It's our partner in Florida. And after talking with key staff folks there, Giselle ended up applying to and getting a full ride to go to a Florida university. And part of that was because, right, isn't that cool, Jake? Part of that is because of being able to talk with evolution marketing and myself and my team about what we were doing, and we connected her. So I'm really proud of this. And I think it's a great job. It's a great job of telling a story, right? And people like stories ultimately. Here's another example. I think Leah might be dropping things in the chat too. So if you haven't looked in the chat, go check those out. I'm gonna be real brief. In 2022, we did a eco home project at my house. And these are 4 right here of the 6 students I work with from Oconomowoc High School. And they actually spoke at our press conference. So that's a picture from our press conference. And those are the students there. And here's the students, different students again. Oh no, maybe it's the same. 2 students had COVID during this, so they were not able to be at the press conference. But here's the students at a different conference with me as well. So they talked about their experience of learning about green renovations and eco-friendly sustainable homes. So again, another way, this is from their report. So them talking about what they learned, a couple groups of students a couple years later. Now, when I talk about Lisa's rules, so in the ideal world, you would follow Lisa's rules for impact storytelling. The first one is you want to work with your C-suite/board of directors to determine your organization's CSR, sustainability, ESG strategies and goals. Once you have those determined, then determine who your stakeholders are. Once you know who your stakeholders are, determine what type of data your stakeholders want. Because remember, you can't please everybody, and just throwing spaghetti at the wall is not a good way to do this. You can be really strategic. And I would argue the more strategic you can be in this, the better you can show results year over year. Then you want to establish a baseline year, and you want to start tracking that same data year over year, kind of like I showed you with the giving data for evolution marketing. And you want to be consistent. So customers really trust brands that stay true and consistent to their commitments and actions. This is why it's imperative that you start with your C-suite and your board of directors, have them make the decisions or have your leadership team make the decisions, and then you build your strategy around that. And it could be for 3 to 5 years, but it's not for 6 months. What's happened in the last couple of years is that brands have made statements publicly, and then when an influencer or some socio-political leader has come out and said something negatively about that brand, the brand then turns around and says, "Oh, I didn't actually mean what I said." That's really problematic. And that's this thing about trust. The brands that have stayed true to the things that they put out publicly, and whether it be the folks that they're working with or their commitments to social causes or social problems, yes, they might see an ebb and flow in um, sales of their products, but ultimately over the long run, they do better because they've been consistent and they've built trust with the audience. And the last thing is you really want to showcase any type of third party certifications or audits that have helped you within your sustainability journey. And by sharing those, that also helps to grow trust because it's from a third party. And remember, this is a journey. So you start on day one, and over time, you work towards that. All right. So I just want to tell everybody that we've got two other additional webinars coming up in this Impact Storytelling series. On April 11th, we're going to have Unpacking Stakeholder Sustainability. So we're going to talk about it through the lens of customers, workforce, and community. And then on May 9th, we're going to talk about transforming your business, aligning business strategies with the sustainable development goals. So I am hoping that you will all be able to join us for those. We're going to now go to Q&A. Leah, take over.
All right, everyone. I hope that that was helpful information for you all. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat or do as Sarah did and raise your hand, and I can kind of call on some people to ask questions. So Sarah, why don't we start with you? Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah was just clapping. I'm going to go into
Yeah,
the
sorry
chat.
about that.
No, that's okay.
I'll
But
let
you
someone
can
else
also,
go first.
yeah, you can also use the hand raising emoji, and I can find you that way as well. So we'll start with Heather in the chat. Heather asks, would you ever want to go wider than C-suite and get stakeholder input in developing the organizational sustainability goals?
Okay,
Thinking about organizational buy-in.
That's a great question, Heather. Depending upon the type of organization, yes. So again, remember, there's not one perfect model. So every business is a little bit different. But we have done work with some of our clients where we do stakeholder engagement first, especially when you've been doing X for say 3 years or 5 years, and now you're working your next plan. That's when you would do that's what I would argue is the best time to do stakeholder engagement. So that way you can find out if your stakeholders, your partners, if they're in alignment with where you're going or if things have shifted and changed. And yes, you can come off mute and ask me any question you have.
No, it makes sense. I was just, you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, but you also don't want to not have people have their say in what's being done with the organization. Like the more everybody's aligned, the more you'll actually potentially see progress, I suppose.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And here's the other thing. Some of these groups might be a municipality or they might be a nonprofit that's working across the state. So for example, a Citizens Utility Board, they're here today. Hi, Rich from Cub. They work across the state of Wisconsin. So they have a lot of stakeholders, and so there's always, I think, times and places to ask stakeholders for their thoughts and feedback, especially when you're doing planning for the next iteration.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. You can't survey every citizen of your municipal government. All right, cool. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you ever give, oh, I see Lisa wrote a question. I'm reading it now, Leah. Sorry, I took your job
Sure.
away.
No, go ahead.
Do you ever give training presentations to cities that are interested in sustainability? Yes, yes, Lisa, we do. And in actuality, Evolution Marketing has worked with the city of Oconomowoc from 2007 to 2015 or 2016. I lose track. We worked with them for a number of years here in Wisconsin. We helped them actually create their first ever 25 by 25 plan. So yes, we actually, one of our clients that we work with, or one of our categories of clients, are municipalities. Other questions? Am I missing other things in the chat, Leah?
Not for now. I do actually have a question that might be helpful. Lisa, do you mind telling us the difference between an impact report and an annual report?
Oh, yes, that is a great question. So an annual report, those are typically done by nonprofit entities. Also, governments can do them as well. Now, for-profit businesses can do them too, but it's something that comes out of the nonprofit world. And it showcases on an annual basis financial earnings, where your budget was, who your donors are, things like that. So that's different than an impact report in that the impact report, again, taking the philosophy from before, you take it one step further. So in an impact report, you'd say, okay, let's say we raised $1 million last year. We used that $1 million to help 3 different communities. Here's the projects we did in those communities. Here's the stories from the ground in those communities. So you're showcasing, putting a spotlight on the benefits, both social and environmental, of the actions that were highlighted in the annual report. Is that clear to everyone? Awesome.
That's
Thanks.
great. Thank you, Lisa. We do have a question from Rachel. Rachel, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, feel free to ask your question.
Hello. My question is, so I'm curious about like challenges and opportunity areas within businesses. What do you see as the top 3 challenges for businesses that you're seeing when it comes to impact storytelling?
Consistency, transparency, and I'm going to say it, consistency again. Because what's happened is, and I say this as somebody who's been doing this for a long time. I think many businesses, we talked about green hushing, remember at the beginning? I think many businesses how do I say this right? I think many businesses are paying attention to financial predictions and political predictions. And so they're hearing what's happening in mainstream society, and that they're letting what they're hearing scare them or influence them to do things or not do things. And so I think they're hearing they need to be transparent, but they're not sure about what they should be transparent about. So sometimes they will share some piece of information and they may not be consistent on it. The second thing is many organizations are learning about a lot of this firsthand, right? The world is changing very quickly. And I think it's incredibly hard for organizations, especially small to mid-sized businesses, who might have one person doing social media, one person who's the marketing director, and somebody else, doing other things in that area, to be consistent. And that's why I really encourage many of our clients, or all businesses, on a yearly basis, to have your Marcoms team have a meeting, come up with the language you want to be using that year, and make sure you're all in agreement to use that language, and then talk about how that language could translate to social media, to impact storytelling, basically to anything you're doing. Because a lot of times people don't mean to be inconsistent, because they just like, get this out there, we have to respond. I mean, I'm sure you all remember the black box that people put up on their social media after George Floyd's killing. I mean, people just felt like they had to take action, but what did that actually mean? And what were the repercussions for their brand or their business by doing that, right? And so I think that's why having strategic conversations ahead of time and having a game plan in place helps our businesses to be successful, or to execute impact storytelling or sustainability Marcom successfully. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
Sounds
thanks.
like it takes a really strong collaborative team to come together frequently to get these communications out in a meaningful and thoughtful way.
Yes, and I would argue, so I guess I said consistent twice, but I would say that the third issue is communication. I think most companies today have communication as a challenge, and that's because there's now a million different ways to communicate. It used to just be email. Now it's LinkedIn, it's social media, it's e-newsletters, it's Snapchat. I mean, there's all these different ways to communicate. There's Teams, there's Zoom, there's Google Meet, right? There's Slack channels. And so I think sometimes we get lost in all of that, and that doesn't help us any with our communication strategies. Jake, you want to come off and mute and share your question?
Yeah, so I know like a lot of us are very like small entities that are on the call today. And so and a lot of people answered that they have never been doing a sustainability report or something like that in the past. And so you said we should engage our stakeholders and our C-suite. But what if they don't know where to base their understanding? What if they don't know what they want? How do you kind of start or guide that conversation to say, here are your options, or here's what the industry is doing or emerging into?
Do you have a strategic plan for your organization?
We're building one.
Okay, so part of it, Jake, is that where you're at right now is you're building that strategic plan. So this should all be part of that strategic plan conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have that strategic plan, you're going to have 2 or 3 goals, right, that are set for the next year to 5 years or X number of time. Well, then underneath those goals, think about the strategies that you'll be using, right? Because you have to have a game plan first. And once everybody agrees to what that game plan is, that's when you start to build out and research into these other things. So once you know, like for example, I'm not sure which of the 2 organizations you're working with right now you're referring to, but if you're talking about operating in 3 or 4 different countries and you're going to highlight specific programs in each, then you might have strategies or messages that would go with each of those.
Sure. I was kind of asking the question even before that. Like, if we don't, when we are developing or altering a strategic plan, how do we base the conversation in something? You know,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So, okay, so this is where you could do stakeholder engagement, right? Is that what you're asking about? So
yeah,
you would want to identify key stakeholders that are tied to your organization that you have a relationship with, or that are the beneficiaries of the work that you're doing. And you would want to either host informational interviews or have some type of a focus group with them to show them kind of what you're thinking, see what their thoughts and feedback actually are, right? And then you could change your plans based on that. It's going to be some qualitative sociology, basically, is what you're going to be doing with your stakeholders, so that you can touch base with them and see if what you're proposing resonates with them, and also does it resonate with their needs? Because I know the work that you're doing are in developing countries. So the needs there might be some blinders or biases that show up about what the needs are.
yeah.
Does that
Think
help?
kind of. It's still like a bunch of like we don't know, but no one really knows. So,
Well, you have to start someplace though. That's the other
right.
thing. You shouldn't be afraid to create a baseline. So you need to, we all need to start somewhere. And the other thing is it's okay to show continuous improvement. Many people say to me, "Oh, Lisa, we're really worried that, last year we didn't do as much, but this year we're doing a lot of stuff and we can't show." I'm like, no, you want to show continuous improvement because your
Mhm.
stakeholders want to see how you're getting better, doing better, having better impacts, right?
Right,
It's part of that journey.
right. I agree.
And I
Other
will actually add one thing to that, Jake, that might be helpful for people that are starting from the ground up and just have no sense of what direction they want to go when it comes to their impact. The SDG Action Manager, which we'll actually be doing another webinar, that's our third webinar, we'll be going through the sustainable development goals and how you can use those to kind of guide your business impact. There is something called the SDG Action Manager. And basically what you can do is use that as a tool to guide your business decisions. So if you're not really sure where to begin, I would definitely recommend checking out that tool, seeing how your business or organization is aligning with the sustainable development goals. And that will give you a great baseline for areas where you can improve. And that at least kind of shows some direction of, oh, I see we're not doing great in these 3 areas. Maybe that's where we should start with our initial focus.
That's
We are
awesome.
launching our impact tool at the end of the month.
That's great. Well,
I
and
agree with you.
it's on the same platform that the B Impact Assessment is built on. So what you
Right,
put into the SDG Action Manager tool then will map into the B Impact Assessment when you want to go and get third-party audited. Thank you,
totally.
Jake. Thank you, Leah. That's awesome. Noreen, hello from Boston. What is your question?
Hey, everyone. I was just going to comment on Jake's question, since Lisa knows we just came through the impact report process that Evolution Marketing greatly supported us in. And I was just thinking, Jake, when you asked, because kind of that's where we were at, like, where do we begin? And looking at everything, the SDG manager was great help. I'm glad you emphasized that, Leah. What was helpful for us was to keep coming back to, because I was driving the conversation for the owner, and we're trying to catch as catch can, everybody's busy. And it's like I'd look at all the stuff and be like, this is great, there's so many cool things to do. Oh my God, like, where do we focus and who are we doing stuff for? It was just really coming back to simple things like, why are we showing up? Like, what is the big driving inspiration of the change we want to make? There's a million places we can make change, obviously. But like, what matters to you and your business? Like, just go back to the basics of, what did I start? What is it? Homelessness? Is it social justice? And it doesn't have to be, it's what's near and dear to your heart. And then you kind of build out. And then some things will be more logistical and just happen anyway, because yeah, it matters that we recycle. That won't be the biggest driving reason why you started your business, but that's something that you want to improve on too. So we just had to keep taking it back to, like, the owner, it was very near and dear to his heart to, recognize native land that we were on, and paying reverence to farmers and things like that. So that was a real core thing that we looked at. Well, how do we do that? How does that matter? How do we elevate their voices? So It's quite a journey, and there's small and big ways, but we just had to keep turning back to us, like what's our inspiration, and then listening. So it is a process that's just not, yeah, it's not a one size fits all by any stretch.
Thank you, Noreen, for sharing that, and I appreciate that. Yeah, Noreen works at a company called the BE, Biosystems Engineering. They're in North Carolina, and at some point later this year, I hope to be able to share their impact report publicly because it's fantastic. And I mean, not only from a creative standpoint, but also from things that they're doing because they're a professional engineering firm who is doing a lot of really great stuff at the hyper local level as far as community partnerships and helping impact in a positive manner the community in which they're located in. And again, goes back to your values, Jake, right? Like what's important for the mission and vision of your company, right? And that goes back to that. What is your impact, or sorry, your strategic plan look like, right? Like what is the vision and mission of your organization, and how are you making those things be made manifest? All right, we are at 12:45. If we have any other questions, we can stay on for a couple more minutes longer. But we really appreciate you all being here with us today. I did want to share that we do have one more slide, and this is our thank you slide. So I want to thank everyone for attending today. And I also want to let you know that on the Evolution Marketing website, we've got lots of free educational resources. So if you liked what you heard today, you want to learn more, we have sustainability courses that are on our website. They're all free, and the courses are literally webinars and programming that we've put together over the last several years, as well as we have triple bottom line resources for businesses who are engaged in people, planet, and profit. Oh, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you,
Oh,
everyone. We hope you enjoyed.
thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your March or February. We'll see you in April. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Oh, no. Rich, you can come off mic if you want to talk to us. How do I stop recording? Okay.